The giant killer known as Andrea. She's tough as rock and a powerful defense player. Lil Ragu known as Jared. He may be small but he's strong, and he's a punk rock skater. So come and check us out and follow us. The journey's just begun. We are Little Ragu and Giant Killer. Autism 101. We are Little Ragu and the Giant Killer. Autism 101.
Hi, I'm Jared, Little Ragu,
Hi, I'm Andrea, the Giant Killer.
and we're here with Daniel Wendler.
I'm excited to be here with both of you.
Thanks.
So tell us about yourself. What interests you on autism? What kind of connection do you have with autism?
Yeah, I have a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome. So right before I started high school, I was diagnosed with Asperger's, which, as you guys know, is on the autism spectrum. So when I was growing up, I had a lot of social struggles. I didn't really know how to fit in or how to make friends, and I didn't really understand why. But then when I was diagnosed, then it started to make sense to me. And so since that time, since I was diagnosed, I tried to work really hard to learn social skills and learn how to connect with other people. And now I work as a therapist and as an author, so I can help other people make connections and build relationships too.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know you were a therapist too.
Mm-hmm.
So what inspired you to start writing?
Yeah, I think after I got my diagnosis, I remember the person who diagnosed me sort of saying, like, here's all of these social skills that you don't have. And I think they were trying to tell me, like, you know, this is why you're not going to be able to make friends. And I thought of it instead as like, well, this is my homework. This is my curriculum. This is the stuff that I need to learn. So I started teaching myself social skills kind of the way that you would learn a foreign language, just sort of like learning one rule at a time. And that created a really big impact for me. Like I was able to make friends and have connections, and it really sort of transformed my life to teach myself these things. And I thought, you know, and after a couple of years of that, I thought, wow, these things that I've learned, that I've used in my own life, I feel like other people could learn this too. Other people could benefit from this also. So I really wanted to take what I had learned and put it out there in the world for other people to benefit from. And that's what made me decide to start writing.
That's good.
Sweet.
So how many books do you have written? Which is your favorite?
Yeah, so I've written 3 different books. And it's hard to pick one favorite. Like it's kind of like choosing like a favorite child if I was a parent. But I think the book that was the most fun for me to write was Level Up Your Social Life, the Gamer's Guide to Social Success. Because for that book, what I did is I wrote about a concept from video games, which is video games is one of my special interests. And so I wrote about like a topic from video games, and then I used that as a metaphor to teach like a social skills concept. And so it was very fun because I got to just like write and think about video games, but still make it helpful and useful for people.
That's good.
That's awesome. So are you working on anything at the present you would like to share with your readers?
That's a good question. I have a book that I have been very slowly working on, but it's been like I think the last couple of years I've been more focused in kind of finishing up graduate school and starting my career as a therapist, and so it's been a little bit harder to set aside time to write. But when I get the chance, I've been making sort of slow progress towards a book that is maybe a little bit more of a memoir, like less of just a practical social skills guide and more of just sharing stories about my life and some of the things that I've learned about what it means to be a person. So that's still very much in the early stages. If you want something that I've actually completed, you got to go back to my older stuff, but that's what I'm working on right now.
How did publishing your first book change your process of writing?
That's a good question. I think it actually made writing harder, which is not really what you would expect. But I think before I put my first book out, I was just sort of writing for fun. Like I was just kind of writing because I was like, this is kind of cool to like put my ideas out there and to, to hit publish. And, only if even one person reads this, then I'm happy. But then I published my first book, and then like I started to get readers, and I started to get reviews, and like people liked it, and then it created pressure, because then it's like, oh, if I'm going to go make a second thing, then it has to be just as good or better as the first thing that I made, and the first thing was pretty good. And so that, I think, is part of what made it hard to create my second book. And I kind of I sort of got stuck on it for a couple of years, and I had to sort of figure out, like, it wasn't until I realized, oh, I can make this about like video games and use that as a metaphor and sort of take a different approach, that it kind of freed me up to start to kind of break out of that pressure and to start writing a new book. So it did, like, you'd think that, oh, you write one book, it gives you confidence you can write another, but it actually made it harder.
Yeah.
So, do you have any advice for writers?
Yeah. So like I have, some books out, but I didn't start with books. I started with just my website, improveyoursocialskills.com, and just putting out pieces of advice as just sort of like small articles or pages. Like I would write like 1,000 words at a time, and then I would hit publish on that. And I think that made it a lot easier to sort of get started, because I didn't have to think of 100,000 words worth of ideas or something like that ahead of time. Like I could just share one idea at a time, one page at a time, and then I could hit publish, and I could get some feedback, I could get some response, I could get some comments that would maybe encourage me to keep writing. So I think if you are a beginning writer, I wouldn't put the pressure on yourself to write an entire book at first. I would try to just start a blog, start a website, start a Tumblr or something, and just put out a little bit, consistently. And then like my first book, about half of the content in the book was stuff that I had previously published on my website that I just collected and I organized it into book form. So once you've done a lot of writing on the web, you can then turn around and turn it into a book. So it's not like wasted or you have to start over, but it makes it easier to get started.
Do you want each book to stand on its own, or are you trying to build a body of work with connections between each book?
It's a good question. I think that the hope would be that each book would stand on its own, that if if you only read one of my books, that would still be helpful for you, and you'd be able to get a lot out of it. I think that all of my books, though, I think that they sort of are under the same core idea or core theme, that social skills are something that you can learn, and that even if you feel like you're awkward, even if you feel like you're introverted, even if you're on the spectrum, or if you have, some other, thing going on, that no matter what, you can still get better at social skills. You can still learn to connect better with other people. I think that that's the thing that really holds all my books in common.
That's good.
So, quick question. I don't know if you heard about, they were discontinuing some, like making Dr. Seuss books, a few of them. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, my understanding is that it was the estate of Dr. Seuss that looked at some of his older books and found that there were stuff in them that were pretty racist and pretty problematic, and that were not representative of really the mission or the impact of Dr. Seuss or the good stuff that he wanted to accomplish. And so I think that discontinuing those works so that his other works could continue to make an impact without sort of being sullied, like that makes sense to me. Like in one of my books, I actually make I have a comment about the current political events that were happening at the time that I wrote the book. And I kind of like regret having that in the book, just because it was like it didn't age super well. And somebody reading the book now that looks at that, comment, they might be like, ooh, like it would distract them from the larger thing that I'm trying to accomplish with the book. And so if I go back and I release a revised version of that book, I'll probably change that. Like it wasn't like an important anecdote or whatever, it was just a little small example. I'll probably change that to something that's more timeless, because I don't want somebody to miss the big picture that I'm trying to communicate because of some thing that I had included in there. And I think like the state of Dr. Seuss, they have a mission to like to think about the impact that Dr. Seuss has on the world and to protect that. And so to me, I think that makes sense. I also think, like, thinking from the perspective of like a person of color reading a Dr. Seuss book, I if I'm going to read a book to my kids, I don't want there to be something racist in that book. So that makes sense to me also.
So what is one advice you could give to an autistic to help improve?
Like improve their social skills, or just improve in general?
Probably the social skills.
Yeah.
Since you're back. We stumped him.
I'm trying to think if I should give like a specific social skill, or if I should give a more general principle. I think if whatever I want.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I would give that would probably be the best advice is, if you want to get better at social skills, try, like, instead of getting overwhelmed by the thought of like how much you might feel like you need to learn or whatever, ask yourself, what could I do to get 1% better at social skills today? Can I just get 1% better? Because that probably, it just takes the form of like, reading one blog post or one, couple pages of a social skills book and finding one technique to try, and then practicing that for the day and then getting better at it. Like I remember I read a social skills book when I was in high school, and it had a technique for like every time you walk through a door, try to like straighten up and have a better posture. And previously, like when I was in a social, like situation, I would always be like hunched over and like this, and that didn't project a lot of confidence. And so for a day, I just practiced every time I walked through a doorway, I would straighten up, and I would, obviously you can see I'm slouching a little bit right now. It didn't work perfectly, but like just learning that one technique did help improve my posture, did help me make, appear a little bit more confident. And then, that alone is not going to make me socially successful, but I accomplish, getting a little bit better posture today, and then tomorrow I do something else, and then it sort of builds from there. So the basic idea is, don't get overwhelmed by trying to figure out everything. Just pick one little thing for today and focus on that.
That's good.
Well, is that all the time we got?
Yeah.
I think so, but I appreciate you guys, reaching out to me and being persistent. And this was a lot of fun to chat with you.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.